To call this meeting of the Finance Committee to order. The date is the 10th of April. Time is 3 o'clock. With us in attendance today, we have Alderman Tolliver, Alderwoman Bade, Alderman Warman, and myself, Alderman Franco. First item is 25-0267, approval of the minutes from the Finance Committee meeting held on March 27, 2025. We have a motion by Alderwoman Bade. Second by Alderman Warman. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And it passes 4-0. Madam Clerk, anybody from the public wishing to speak?
No, we do not.
Okay. Let's go right to the agenda items then. First one is 25-0290, an ordinance amending the Ward 8 budget for the fiscal year 2025. And I believe that would go to, you do, starting now.
Give me my battery. He didn't want to give me a battery for my mics. Good afternoon, Finance Committee. About a year or so ago, I started making my way through various committees and meetings in Ward 8 about, what could I do as the alderman to help our community? What type of accents what do we need? Is there infrastructure items that we need? Are there things that, that we are missing that I could help with and that the city could help with and I could use ward funds for? And the one thing that kept coming up over and over again with all my HOAs and all my neighborhood gatherings that I went to is community space. There's very little community space out on our side of town. I'm not really sure about the rest of you, but I know out on our side of town. When I say community space, it's a space where people can go, an HOA can go meet, or I can have my meetings, scouts can have their meetings. And that kept coming up, and I have struggled with community space as I've had my Ward 8 meetings, and I have to pay to use the Park District each time that I want to have a meeting. So throughout that process, it was about the same time that the Aurora Public Library announced that they were going to do an $8 million renovation at the Ola Branch. And many of you may not realize or know that the Ola Branch Library is by far the busiest library in the city of Aurora. And it is way too small for the amount of traffic it has and the circulation that they have. So they began this renovation in last December. I sat down with Michaela and asked her the specifics about the renovation, and one of the things that I was interested is, what is your community room going to look like? So after several meetings and several conversations, I decided that I was going to collaborate with the Aurora Public Library, Ola Branch, and make a contribution to their community room. It's a community room that'll be room for 150 people. It's a room that I, as an alderman, can go in and use for a meeting for no charge. It's a room that any alderman could go in and use for no charge. The scouts could use, the HOAs could use, and every single person in Ward 8 will be able to utilize that facility and has access to that facility. And I really feel like it's a very appropriate place for me to put some of my Ward 8 funds. So I am here today to ask for this amendment for the budget and to let you know what it is I'm going to do with it. And I'm actually so proud to be doing this because libraries are great. They are so important to our city, and they reach from young to old and everything in between. So that's my ask today.
So, first of all, it's a wonderful idea. It's great. It's a great thing to do. I wish we'd do more of that. Because I've had a similar situation on the west side before. I basically got bought out. So my questions going forward will be, all right, so you don't have to pay for it.
Right.
Because which you should, because you're contributing. Is there anybody else, like if you want a scouts group, so nobody's gonna have to pay for it?
No.
Okay, so that's good.
And not to knock the Park District, but each and every time I utilize the Park District for a ward meeting, I'm paying a minimum $350, and I have to pay for everything. I have to pay for mic, I have to pay for screens, I have to pay for computers, have to pay for everything. And it's not just me that won't have to pay, the community won't have to pay, it's the community room. And they're making it large enough so that we'll be able to be for large meetings. They're adding a lot of other great stuff, and I don't need to go into all of that today, but, so, no, it's for the entire community to be free. Just like you could go over to our library down
Right.
here and use their space.
So because we're doing this through ward funds, will you get priority for scheduling? It's not, obviously, you're not gonna use it all the time, but when you have a meeting, you like, all right, I have a meeting this month, this month, this month, are you gonna get priority over some other things, since you're putting in all the money?
I don't believe that I haven't requested that.
Right, okay.
I am doing it more for the residents
Right.
of the community. So they will be doing some kind of a dedication to the residents of Ward
Mm-hmm.
8 for that room. So I haven't felt the need to ask for the priority.
Sure.
I think, I know enough in advance what I needed anyways to be able to get the
Right.
facility.
And I say that because when I had the meeting space in West Plaza, very few times there was overlap, but sometimes somebody says, I'd like to use that night, or it's already being used because I had somebody in the schedule, it was a first come, first serve. Obviously, they worked around my meeting schedule.
Right.
So, I mean, it's not a problem, but it's just something that
Right.
somebody's gonna think about down the road.
Well, I have 7 HOAs and a couple community groups that all do community meetings, and then, that extends to scouts and everything. And not a single one of my community or HOA has a place to go have their meeting that they're not paying for. And HOAs can't pay $300 to go
Right,
to a
sure.
meeting. The closest thing we have is the fire station, Station 8, and that is always full. So this is something that the entire community will have access to.
Mr. Alexandru, you have something to say?
Alex Alexandru, Chief Management Officer. Just a couple of points. Some of these questions are valid, and I think in the past, when there's been this type of large contribution, normally there would be some type of an agreement so that some of these things are put in writing so that, because the proposal here is to give that money to the library, which is a separate taxing body from us. So once the money is given, unless there's an agreement, and say there's changeover, somebody could decide to start charging. Somebody could decide to say, sorry, HOAs, you don't get priority or whatever. Or if you decide to move on someday, your predecessor or successor, same with the library. So there is a suggestion from myself and staff that whatever you decide to do with the donation to this project, it's probably advisable to have a written document. Now, in the past, we've done IGAs because they're a separate taxing body, we're a taxing body. So I would just recommend that. And then just to know, you mentioned Station 8, we have a 311 renovation being proposed along with the conversion to 311. And the community room is getting, the proposals get a significant upgrade. We have some money budgeted, but we met with Alderman Bug. We haven't had a chance to meet with you. We haven't met with you, but the idea was to talk to our DuPage County representative alderman to see if ward funds can be put towards that project as well. And then it's our city-owned property, city-controlled, and obviously any alderman would have priority for use. But we're looking at a significant upgrade because it's the original technology, it's the original setup. We would make the one room a Teams room, the smaller conference room, and then we're upgrading 311. So just a couple of things to let you know, because I was not able to talk to both of you, but we can certainly work with you to do an IGA to make sure that the money is all accountable and there's what you want to have happen is documented.
So just to respond to that, the first thing I did after I had a conversation with Michaela is I talked to our legal department, and they didn't find that the IGA was necessary, but we can have further conversation about that. And I did have some conversation with some standards of what the community room is going to look like. I never asked for a contractual agreement or anything like that, but I certainly will follow up with that. Thank you.
So, And that's all, good point. Now, I guess we want to ask legal, if we approve it here today and it ends here, because it won't go past finance, I believe, do we have to approve this with a stipulation of an agreement down the road?
No, I don't think you can micromanage my ward funds to that degree.
Well, but based on what Alex Alexandru said, I don't know that we would want to go into something like this because of the potential disagreements later on down the road.
I
So-
don't feel that, I feel like we're getting a little away from the purpose where we're here. First of all, the 311 project is a complete different project, and I don't think it's the time to be speaking about this. This is something that I've chosen to do with my ward funds. This is something that will serve every single resident in Ward 8. If we need something in writing, it will not be a problem. We can put the caveat in there that it needs to be, but I don't want to have to sit back in front of this body again to explain this over again when I feel that it's a little unnecessary, as it is Ward 8 funds, and it is going to Ward 8 residents, so.
Well, right, but I would think that you want protection too, so that
Yes.
going,
Yeah.
5, 10 years from now, that somebody says, oh, I want to change it, so no, we have it written down. So I think you would want that protection also, and I
Well,
would,
libraries don't charge for rooms, one, doesn't mean they can't change, but you go over to the library to go use a room. Right now, you don't have to pay to use a room.
but I thought you just said you were paying $300.
Park District.
Oh,
To
up
the
to
Park
All
District.
right, Park District,
To,
okay.
yeah, the Park District is where you have to pay money.
Okay,
In
okay.
the library, you don't have to pay money
Right.
to utilize their computer room, you don't have to pay money to utilize their,
Right.
the amenities that they have.
Well, if Chris or legal could just just help us with this thing, because when we make, it's a great idea, we want to do it, we just want to make sure that we're protected. I think you would agree that, we just don't want any.
Yeah, and I don't
flies in the-
feel unprotected.
Right.
I don't, and I don't feel like if that is something that's necessary for the city, I can do that. But again, like I said,
Right.
this is the place where I have chosen to use Ward 8
Okay, Chris?
funds.
Chris Minnick, Chief Financial Officer, just a point of clarification. Because this will be a formal budget amendment, we will actually need formal city council approval. We are
We'll be going
requesting.
past this, okay.
Yeah, we are requesting formalized approval to add the $300,000 expenditure, transfer, donation, whatever you want to call it, to the budget. So we would actually have to have that go through city council. That could have taken one of two forms. We chose to put that into the resolution, the ordinance before you this afternoon, just so that it would be handled in one shot, and we wouldn't have to come back at a future time for formal adoption and formal approval of the change to the budget.
Okay.
Can I ask, is there precedence for that, to why, when there's a budget amendment, and I'm completely unaware if there is, when an alderman comes forward and asks for a budget amendment, is the precedence that it goes to COW?
Well, we do, the budget is adopted by ordinance each and every year. And
Correct.
the full city council
Right.
votes on that. When we do budget amendments throughout the course of the year for any purpose, there is, and in fact, we will be coming forward probably in the next couple of weeks or month with a budget amendment for some items that have arisen, since we prepared the budget and since the budget was approved here in January. So that's a long-winded answer. The short-winded answer is, we do that anytime we make a formalized change to the budget to add additional expenditures that are going to increase the line item totals. Whether it's an
Yeah,
alderman
and-
or any other item, because the budget is where we derive the legal authority to expend the funds.
Certainly, but those are funds that are in Ward 8, and in a Ward 8 fund.
It's in the fund balance, but it
Yes.
has not been budgeted to be expended this year.
So is there if somebody wants to, I don't know, let me think of something, do something in their ward that goes over their budget, they have to go through the same process that minimally is not maybe as high as this one? Is this the amount?
That is correct. If they are going to overexpend the total in the budget and we can't make a transfer between line items to fit it within the authority, scope and authority of the budget, we do need to come back for a formalized amendment. And typically, as I mentioned, we do them in mass. There's typically
Okay.
20 or 25 individual amendments that will go on a budget amendment ordinance that comes before council. There may be a ward fund item in there. It may be mixed in with things for IT, finance, police, fire,
Sure,
whatever, and
okay.
other funds.
Okay.
So that's, yeah.
Okay.
And Patrick, you want to,
Sure. Assistant Corporation Counsel Patrick Collins, we'd be happy to work with you in order to figure out whatever other necessary documents or anything
Okay.
you need to have that ready before we go to council.
Wonderful.
so
Are
you
you-
don't
should
feel
you
that
be-
there's anything more to do for us today? We could just approve this, go on, and you'll work together. I just want to make sure that we're not, we're crossing our Ts and dotting our
Facts.
Is. I just want to make sure. Okay,
Data
good.
and evidence.
Yes.
Perfect.
Yes, and I
Alright.
have already worked with legal, and I will, would you like me to now make you the contact? Because you were not the person I was
I
working
prefer the
with.
contact always be Rick Veenstra.
And yes.
I think he
okay.
said that about you, but I
Yes.
wasn't sure. Okay. All right, so any other further questions, comments?
So
Alderman
I just want
Warren?
to clarify, so they're going to be an agreement that says that they specifically have to use this money for, is that what we're looking to get?
Off the top of my head, I picture something like an intergovernmental agreement that basically would be, with this money, there come certain stipulations of some kind.
Mr. Veenstra said this is not an intergovernmental agreement, so perhaps the legal part of it we can talk about offline, because I'm getting mixed
Yes, I don't know what you and
messages
Rick
here,
had talked
so,
about, or the other
yeah,
one. we
I,
can-
I have thought that I've done everything I need to do to this point, so, I think if we could just pass it through, and I'll make sure that I work with, legal before we meet, for our next meeting.
Sure, okay. So you're good with questions?
Yeah, that was just a
Okay.
simple motion to approve.
Any other
so.
questions or anything?
Second.
All right, so we have a motion from Alderman Mormon, second by Alderman Tolliver. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Passes 4-0. Thank you. Okay. Next item is 25-0077, resolution approving renewal of an agreement for consulting services with Marketplace City, 20 North Wacker Drive, Suite 1000, Chicago, for the purpose of performing technology purchasing services for a 3-year term with an additional 2-year option for a total award of $375,000.
Good afternoon, Chairman Franco, members of the committee. Jeff Anderson, Deputy CIO. Here to ask for a renewal of our agreement with Marketplace and ask for some additional services from them. We've used them since 2019. In fact, they're here today. Our Marketplace team is here. You guys want to come up and just introduce yourselves? They're local, Chicagoland area, so.
Hello, Andrew Watkins, the president and COO of Marketplace.city.
Chris Foreman, CEO of Marketplace.city. Thank you.
And Nathaniel Alnajar, Customer Success Director at Marketplace.
Thank you.
So we've used this team and others from their group since 2019 to help us with IT procurement items, right? And you can understand, when new technology things come up in IT, we like to call these things, a shiny object or a purple squirrel. It's something coming up that maybe we haven't seen before. How can we go out and purchase these things? We've used them specifically to help us around RFP items, right? And go out and help look at what's in the marketplace and how they can help us save some money. I've got a little slide deck here that I won't read entirely for you. It's also attached to the resolution. But the key bullet on this point, we started with them with an MOU in 2019. We've extended that additional 3 years. We're back to ask for 3 with a 2-year option here. And we'll show on additional pages that we believe we've saved over $2 million across the partnership here, just in purchases alone. And there's costs of FTE savings as well, because they're handling most of the RFP side of it, the writing of the RFP, those kinds of things, and working with the teams to define actually what that is. And so if I go to the next page, this is a summary by year. We don't have the full totals for 2024 yet because we're still sorting through all of that. But you can see the big thing to come through here is that the contracted savings there is for this time frame that we have in here is $1.7 million. The resource hour savings, that's using a cost we got from the finance department on what it would cost our employees if we were doing this. So between finance and IT, we believe this is 2.5 FTEs that they're saving us, and so this cost is what we're showing here. So with an overall savings there of then over $2 million for a summary. Okay, if I go to the next slide, there's some examples here. I won't go through this eye chart. Sorry, it's so small, but there's been some big purchases in here where we've used them. One of them we go into detail in the appendix if you'd like to read about how we went about the body camera purchase, which is a unique thing where we had 2 finalists for that, and they helped us work our way through exactly that and really helped us get that purchased and implemented in a very quick fashion. If you remember, that was a very, you know, I don't want to say controversial, but it's something that was very needed. The community wanted that in a very timely fashion back then, and Marketplace helped us rush that through effectively. There's laptops in here, there's maintenance for security cameras, those kinds of things, where they're out now saying, well, this is what other cities are getting, this is what these contracts are saying, pulling it all together, helping us work with all those vendors to put together a cohesive RFP and a solution, then to put out in the street, and then interview the vendors. We then, at the very end of the process, our teams will score. The city teams involved with this. It's not just IT. So if it involves police, they'll be involved. If it involves other departments, they'll be involved. We submit the scores to Marketplace, and simply Marketplace comes back and tells us then, you know, who we selected. Any questions on these first two slides here?
Any questions from the committee so far? Okay. No.
So since we've worked together now since 2019, there have been times where we've stretched the relationship on both sides, and what we've asked them to do in a few cases, and you can imagine, you know, I'll talk about what we've asked for. We talk about the budgeting process now is going to start here in May, and we're going to be looking at things we may or may not buy, say, as late as November of 2026. And so we'll turn to Marketplace and say, what do you see out here for these types of items, which may or may not result in a purchase by the city, right? And Marketplace has expended time and effort to do those things, right? Current agreement, they get paid on purchases, and they get paid at the frequency of when the vendor pays us. So the vendor pays us quarterly, they're gonna get their percentage of that quarterly from the vendor directly, not from us, or monthly, or whatever the vendor is paying the city, they'll go retrieve their percentage from the vendor. What we're getting into is these larger situations that we may or may not purchase items just because of either budget or just something we decided ultimately not to do, or it's more of a research kind of a thing, right? Marketplace has obviously grown a lot since 2019. They now have a large ecosystem that we can use, we'd be able to utilize under the new relationship to search their database on our own, to say, what are other cities like us doing? What are they out here doing, without potentially having to pull them in every time and have these discussions. So that's really the thing, is we're asking to extend this, and so it is a purchase this time, but that's the advantage, or all kind of spelled out on this page. I can pause there and see if you have any questions about this one as well.
Any questions so far from the committee? We're all good so far.
Okay, good. And the last item I have here is just some other examples of cities our size and larger that are using these exact services. You know, since Marketplace started, you know, they first started with the commission base, the 7% base. They now also have the consulting services like we're asking to purchase now. Some cities buy just those services. We're asking to do both, right, and help us throughout the full procurement process. And one of the things we will have advantage here, and I'll back up here, one is number 7 there, is they're offering us the opportunity to use this outside of technology as well. Right? Occasionally we get, you know, we've had some questions we've asked them before about, hey, can you help us with furniture in this place, that place? It's not really, you know, what our agreement was with them. We'd have the opportunity to do that going forward.
Questions, comments from the committee? Hearing none, do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion by Alderman Tolliver,
Second.
second by Alderman Warman. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes 4-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is 25-0252, a resolution authorizing the execution of a labor agreement between the City of Aurora and Local 461 of the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, AFL-CIO.
Good afternoon, Alicia Lewis, Chief Human Resources Officer. I'm come before you today to ask for the committee to approve the collective bargaining agreement between the city and IBEW, which is our electricians union. Here today is my bargaining team from Human Resources as well as members of IBEW. This is we're coming off of a 3-year contract, and this would be a 3-year contract going from 2025 to 2027. highlights are, this is a very easy contract. We always have a really good relationship with IBEW. Went quick, and they're always very reasonable. And so we're looking at highlights of 4% for the first 2 years, and then a 4.25 for the third year. And these are rates that are comparable to what we're doing with internally with our non-exempt and executive employees. And then the other caveat here is that this group is agreeing to 20% employee contribution for insurance, which is what we've been working our groups towards, and so they also agreed to that. Any questions?
So I'm glad you brought up about other contracts being very similar going forward, because historically, we're in the 3 to 3.5% typically.
Yes.
And now we're at 4 and a
Yes.
quarter. So is this because of what we've seen in inflation over the last few years, trying to catch up to that? Because I know
Yes.
when we talked about our
Correct.
raises, we looked at historically, we've been behind because of inflation, and you're always trying to catch up and
We
try to
all-
predict, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We always look at our externals as well as our internals
Sure.
and try to keep that balance. And, we're always wanting to be able to attract good people, coming into our organization. And so we need to stay current with what's going on in the market, the marketplace.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from the committee?
And how many people's covered under this contract, city employees?
7,
7? Oh, okay.
small group,
Yeah.
small but mighty.
Think I have that many kids.
Any other questions or comments?
Motion to approve.
So we have a motion to
Second.
approve by Alderwoman Bay, second by Alderman Warman. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that passes 4-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is 25-0253, a resolution authorizing execution of a Phase 2 engineering agreement with H.R. Green, maximum amount of $153,789, and appropriating motor fuel tax funds for the city's safe routes to school projects in School District 129, 131, and 204.
Good afternoon, Tim Widener with the city's engineering division. So yeah, this was originally 3 separate projects, 3 different school districts. Each got awarded funding, and we combined it into one large project. Phase 1 has been underway, so this item is for the Phase 2 engineering. So the agreement is included, as well as the IDOT resolution. As you see, there is going to be some small land acquisition, all temporary easements. So we also have some forms that we need to sign to initiate the land acquisition process with IDOT. Primarily, the improvements will consist of filling in some sidewalk gaps, doing some sidewalk ramps, some striping, some signage, and other things of that nature. There is a location map in the agreement, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions or comments from the committee?
Just a quick question. Thank you, Chairman.
Alderwoman Bay?
How many phases are we going to have for this project? Like, this is the second phase right now.
It's Phase 2 design engineering, so Phase 3 will be construction.
Construction, okay.
Yeah, so we'll come forward again with our standard agreements with IDOT to use the federal funds and likely use an engineer to help in Phase 3 engineering.
And timeline?
Timeline, we're thinking 2026. Again, kind of dependent on IDOT, but we'd like to get going on this. So, and again, with the land acquisition, that might cause a delay, but we're hoping for next summer.
Okay, thank you. Motion to approve.
We have a motion by Alderwoman Bay.
Second.
We have a second by Alderman Tyler. Are there any other questions before we vote? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 4-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is 25-0286, a resolution authorizing the chief financial officer to execute contracts with electricity suppliers to provide electricity to the city of Aurora.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Chris Minnick again, Chief Financial Officer. Right now, MP2 Energy provides electricity to approximately 85 city facilities and accounts within the city limits. Those supply contracts expire on June 1st of 2025. And since 2019, we've utilized Progressive Energy Group, Progressive Business Solutions, to consult with the city for its electric service and to run the procurement process and obtain bids from suppliers that we eventually contract with. To meet our contractual timelines and minimize the cost for electricity, we would like to hold a competitive bid process in late April or early May. This process will allow us to contract with a supplier for the most beneficial terms for electric supply in accordance with the timelines and the expiration dates of the current contracts. Progressive has supplied a market analysis and recent pricing updates. We do, because of the market and the fact that electricity costs are somewhat lower than they were approximately 3 years ago when we went through the process the last time, we do expect that we will have lower electricity costs citywide as a result of this particular procurement. In fact, we estimate that those savings could be as much as $400,000 citywide. Right now, we spend about $3.3 to $3.4 million on electricity annually. We expect that we could see savings of as much as $400,000, taking us down to about that $2.9 to $3 million mark. As noted, Progressive will be soliciting competitive bids to enable the city to obtain the best deal. And based on the pricing analyses supplied, we believe that it's most prudent to concentrate on a combination of 36 to 48-month supply contracts, although the resolution is attached, would allow us leeway to obtain the most beneficial terms and contract duration based on the market conditions when we run the competitive process. The electric market, the electric supply market, is a dynamic market. The prices change every day. We do anticipate that we would receive bids up to about 11:30 or noon on the day of the process. We'll have a hard and fast deadline specified. Then those items would be evaluated by Progressive Energy. They would make the recommendations for the appropriate contracts given our consumption patterns and costs, et cetera. And then we would enter into contracts. We'd enter into a contract that same day to have those electric supply contracts in place. So the resolution does authorize the Chief Financial Officer to execute the contract on the day that the bids are received, and it is consistent with the prior processes that we've entered into for electric supply. You can see in the chart that was included within the packet does reflect the savings based on the current supply contracts. You can see for large accounts, we currently pay about 8.4 cents per kilowatt hour. We are anticipating, or based on recent market conditions, we saw those rates, when locked in for 4 years, go down to about 7.1 cents per kilowatt hour. A similar situation in terms of the small accounts. A 48-month lock gets you just below 7 cents per kilowatt hour as compared with 8.4 under the city current supply contract. And the lighting accounts are slightly higher, but again, we would go and have an overall savings based on the amounts in the contract. So in terms of the next steps and a couple of more background items, ComEd does require 18 business days notice of a change in electric suppliers. That's the reason why we're running this about a month before that June 1st expiration. And then we would run that competitive process in the late April or early May timeframe, evaluate the supplier responses, and select the pricing that offers the most beneficial terms for the city. I'd be happy to answer any questions. Staff does recommend approval.
So, Chris, if you go back to the other slide where you had those prices, the highlighted in blue only reflects that those are the lowest. Is that what that is?
Correct. Yeah, we have not selected
Right.
those at this point.
And there's no problem with using one supplier for the large accounts, a different supplier for the small. That's not a problem.
No, and in fact, we would be soliciting bids from, I believe, 12 companies in each of those tiers. So there should be a good selection and a good universe of prices and pricing and terms to choose from.
But the diversity, if we went with different ones in different categories, is that a problem?
No.
Okay, I didn't know if you say you can take one, you need the whole package, but you don't. You could fragment it a little bit.
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
This is
Alderman-
city facilities only, right? This
Right,
isn't-
so only
yeah.
city.
City
it's
facilities
It's
only,
not, it's
correct.
not
This isn't
public, right,
citywide or whatever, so, okay.
Alderwoman Smith, did you want to say
That was
something?
my
Okay. Alderman Bay?
No, motion to approve.
Okay. Motion approved by Alderman Bay. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Tolliver. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that passes 4-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is 25-0288, a resolution authorizing the execution of sales tax revenue sharing agreement with Valley Honda to modernize and expand its existing dealership location.
Alex Alexandru, Chief Management Officer. I am pinch hitting for Trevor, who's unable to be here. I know we somewhat look alike, lucky for us, but I'm not Trevor. So, and I've
Lucky
got
for all of us.
Chris Minnick here. We are very pleased to present a sales tax rebate agreement for Valley Honda. And if I can get the next slide, please. So basically, the purpose is entering into a sales tax rebate agreement with them. Like a lot of car dealers, car companies, there is a corporately mandated major renovation that's been required of them from Honda. And so clearly this is not just cosmetic. There are improved efficiencies and significant service capabilities that come along with this agreement and this work. And so this agreement is patterned after recent auto dealership agreements that we've done. It's a commonly used practice, and it's necessary because of how large of a construction project this is. So basically, these 4 bullets talk about the significant improvements, first and foremost, and we've got representatives here from Honda, and Rick Williams is here as well. If you've ever used Valley Honda or been out there for service, you know that the existing 2 lanes of their service drive, they've been overwhelmed. It gets congested at times. And so part of this proposal is to add a 3rd lane, which not only will give them additional capacity to take in vehicles, but also they'll still have their required parking spaces. Expand the square footage of the showroom. So they currently have administrative space that they have rendered can be used and repurposed. They are very busy there, thankfully, and so they are looking for additional personnel to add for sales to serve their customers. Part of that expansion for square footage on the 2nd level is adding more administrative and customer-facing digital office space, meeting rooms, and associate restrooms. And then last but not least, building the infrastructure necessary to accommodate the sales and service of battery electric vehicles. There's a vehicle shown there, and their business has improved, and their demand requires that additional infrastructure. So I referenced the common practice of sales tax sharing agreements. It's pretty common in the Chicago area. In 2016, CMAQ did a study, CMAP, and they found there were 127 such sales tax agreements with dealerships in our Chicago region. These agreements are the safest incentives to give because the city is guaranteed our normal amount of sales tax plus additional sales tax. Basically, we both share in the success. And if this sounds familiar, we were most recently before council and got approval, and I'm working backwards here, for those fantastic improvements that occurred at Napleton when, similar to Valley Honda, Napleton on a corporate level was directing folks to separate out and make the Genesis luxury brand its own dealership. And so we were fortunate, council approved. So in that deal, we got the brand new Hyundai dealership and a brand new Genesis right across the street. So as you can see, there's history at the top: Valley Imports, 1992, Gartner Buick, Valley Imports Volkswagen, Max Matson. And then just a note, in 2007, the council did approve a project. However, due to the recession at the time, Valley Honda pulled it back and there was no COA funding. But the concept of a sales tax agreement was approved at that time. I think on this slide, and we'll see in the next one, we have researched again and we refreshed it from the Napleton matter, research examples in nearby communities, and this proposal is clearly keeping in line with most of those agreements in terms of dollar amount, percentages, and term duration. And it is worth noting, this agreement has the same basic terms as the most recent Napleton ones. And again, it's just clear that there's a long history in the region of municipalities competing against each other to keep existing dealerships and/or attract new ones. And we're very excited that not only has Valley Honda continued to be an outstanding corporate and community partner, but that they want to expand and stay and improve the footprint rather than looking to move elsewhere. So this next slide just gives you sort of a comparison on the community examples. And you can see various years of duration from 12 to 25 years, and basically 50% of sales tax all the way on up to 85%. I'm going to turn it over now to Mr. Minnick to talk about the proposed terms and go into some of the numbers.
Thank you. And as proposed, the agreement is a pretty simple concept, and as Mr. Alexander mentioned, it is along the same lines. In fact, it's almost identical to the Hyundai, or the Napleton Hyundai and Genesis agreements that were to, or that, excuse me, did come through City Council back in 2022 and were approved at that time. The amounts have just been adjusted slightly to adjust for some of the specifics related to Valley Honda and the related project cost estimated at about $17.5 to $17.6 million. The term of the incentive and the sales tax sharing would actually be a 15-year maximum term. We do anticipate that based on some of the pro formas and some of the projections, we might be able to hit that the total reimbursement cap of about $12.8 million, somewhere between the 12th and 13th year of the particular time frame of this agreement. And in terms of the sales tax distribution, the first $1,050,000 of sales taxes, municipal sales taxes generated at the Valley Honda dealership would continue to inure to the benefit of the city. Once we hit that cap of $1,050,001, the revenues would be split based on 65% going to Valley Honda and 35% coming to the city. But again, the first $1,050,000 of the sales taxes generated annually at the dealership would continue to come to the city. Taxes that are eligible for the rebate, the 1% sales tax that is related to a vehicle sale, and then the 2.25 home rule sales tax would apply to parts and miscellaneous merchandise that would be sold or consumed at the dealership. So the home rule sales tax does not apply to vehicle sales. So 1% for the city is all that's generated when a vehicle is sold within the city limits. As we mentioned a moment ago, the reimbursement cap is about it is $12,800,000, representing about 73% of the project cost. That's very similar to the proportion and ratio that we used for the Hyundai and Genesis Napleton dealership incentive that went through a couple of years ago. Then I went ahead and put together, just based on the terms that are contained in the agreement, who gets what share of the municipal sales taxes based on certain levels of sales tax generation. So as mentioned, the first $1,050,000 do go to the city. So in the event that the municipal sales taxes generated at the dealership would be $1 million, all of that $1 million would continue to come to the city, and Valley Honda would not get to benefit from this incentive for that particular year. In the event that we have $2,250,000 generated, fourth line from the bottom, excuse me, based on the share and the split, $1.47 million would come to the city, and about $780,000 would go to Valley Honda in that particular scenario. So you can see even with the 65-35 split, because of the floor that we have put in place, the majority of the sales tax revenue under most of those scenarios, in fact, all of those scenarios, continues to inure to the benefit of the city, but Valley Honda gets to benefit from the incentive as they perform and as their sales increase year over year based on the expansion project that they're doing. So I'd be happy to answer any questions on that. And just for a point of reference, it becomes those sales taxes even out at about $4.5 million. That represents about the tipping point where it's nearly a 50-50 split between what the city would receive and what Valley Honda would receive. In that scenario, each of us would get about $2,250,000.
And Mr. Chairman, just also attached to your Legistar item is a packet presentation that Valley provided. We thought in the interest of time we would focus on the deal points, but we can certainly talk about that at COW if needed. Rick, I don't know if you wanted to add anything else about that.
Thank you. Richard Williams, attorney for Valley Honda. With me today is Mark Van Schoten. He's the CFO. Valley Honda has been proud to call Aurora home for the last 50 years, and we're looking to call Aurora home for at least 50 years more. Alex alluded to an agreement back in 2007. Just to give you the flavor of the type of company Valley Honda is, in 2007, we had plans to build a multi-story parking deck because we have a parking problem at our site. And the recession hit, and we had the opportunity to buy some properties down the street. So we scrapped the plan to build a parking deck. We put in parking down the street, and we said, we don't need your money. So we're very conscientious of how we spend our money, and when we are asking for your money, we're sincere when we say we need it in this instance. We've been successful at this site, but our success has led to some challenges. As Alex alluded to, the site is very congested. There's not really much room to do anything except to go up. So what we are doing is we are going to expand the showroom. We're going to put some of our sales force on the second floor, expand that area, and that will alleviate that concern. We also have a pretty significant issue with backup for service. We have 2 service bays. We're going to add a 3rd service bay. I don't know if any of you have Hondas and had your car serviced there, but on a Saturday, it could really back up onto the street. So Alderperson Smith knows what I'm talking about. So we're going to add a 3rd service bay. We're going to add another drive aisle. And by the way, we've came forward before the city a couple months ago, and our plans have been approved, so we're ready to go. But our goal here with service is to make it an enjoyable as possible experience and to minimize the disruption on our customers' time. We're going to expand our tool room. We're going to add a new tunnel car wash. We are also challenged with the changes in the industry and the shift to electric vehicles. So we are expending substantial monies to plan for the future of EVs, both in service and delivery. So a lot of our budget here is geared around electric vehicles. Then, of course, we have the brand reimaging requirements. We're going to totally reshape the front facade of the building and our signage to comply with Honda standards. And the other thing that I wanted to point out and why Valley Honda is unique is we are a 100% employee-owned company. Every single person that works for Valley Honda owns shares, and they get 23% of their compensation every year towards Valley contributes towards shares in the company. So a typical 401k with the company is 5%. Imagine that. We provide 23%. So these monies aren't going into the pockets of a few wealthy owners. This is benefiting the employees directly. There's 205 employees. 102 of these employees are Aurora residents. So this improvement and the success of the dealership is directly benefiting your constituents. And that's, I think, a very unique distinction from us versus those other dealerships that are on the list, because to my knowledge, those are not employee-owned. So we appreciate your time and consideration, and we hope you approve this, and we're here to answer any questions you might have.
Questions or comments from the committee? Alderman Warman.
But do we know the current sales tax that we see each year from Valley Honda?
We do, but we are bound by confidentiality agreements not to disclose that.
I'll meet
It's
you in your
actually a
office.
state statute.
I'm just kidding. So, I'll meet you in your office afterwards. So. I'm
I'm sorry?
I'll meet you in the office afterwards. No. Okay, that's the only question I had.
Alderwoman Bain.
I had a quick question. How is the sales tax split as compared to other cities?
Well, as we go back, several of them are done on a 50% sales tax basis. The question I would have is, do they also incorporate floors? Because, when we initially started this process, there was no floor that was contained in the agreement. But because we wanted to maintain the sales tax base that we currently have, we put that floor in place, and then we made the split a little bit more generous on the side of the Honda dealership on dollars that exceed that base, so that we could continue to receive same amount of sales tax that we're getting today. And what we actually split is the additional growth, the incremental growth in the revenues based on the increase in the sales.
And can you please attach this presentation before COW?
Yes,
To our
we'll make
legislature?
sure, we'll make sure that it's on there for Cal.
Thank you.
May I ask a question?
You have another question?
I'm good, thanks.
Go ahead. Alderwoman Bain, or Alderwoman
So
Spencer.
I just kind of wanted to make a comment. Valley Honda is in my ward. Ogden Ave, where all the automobile dealerships are. I've owned a Honda probably for about 30 years. I've owned several Hondas. And I've purchased all of them from Valley Honda. This is an understatement about how congested you guys are. You guys are so busy. I service my car there as well, and I've been in those two lines, and I've waited, and I've been almost on, Ogden Ave trying to get through into the stall. So I see what you need. So I definitely support this. But just another level of what Valley Honda is and who they are, the fact that they are employee-owned, I think is a beautiful thing, because we don't see those types of corporations enough. I was on the other side of the state at a wedding about 6-8 months ago, and my car broke down. I didn't know what the hell to do. I called Valley Honda Service, and they helped me from afar to tell me what to do to get my car started, fixed, and right to them. That's service. That's service. So they are above and beyond what a normal service station would do. So I appreciate you guys. I've appreciated you way before I became an alderman. All of the dealerships up and down that row have made changes and upgrades and updates. You guys need to do the same, because you got to stay in the market. I'm familiar with the new area that you guys run to get your cars from now, but yeah, you guys do good work, and I hope this body sees to it to move this forward.
So, a couple comments before we vote. There's a couple key points here today I think we need to stress. First one is equity. The fact that we've done this for other dealerships almost compels us to continue that process. Otherwise, we're cherry picking. We should never do that. These community comparisons, outstanding, because we want to know that we're in the ballpark. We always worry about us being too much or less. Looks like we're in the sweet spot there. And then again, about the employee ownership, that this money is kind of going back in some of the pockets of the community. So I think all those are very important points going forward for this project to go through, and I would agree with all of them. So, but these are the things we need to stress. And as we present the committee of the whole, this whole thing, to present it like this, I don't even see a problem going forward with that, personally. With that said, do we have a motion? We have a motion by
Second.
Alderman Mormon, second by Alderman Tolliver. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes 4-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is 25-0291, a resolution authorizing execution of a labor agreement between the City of Aurora and Association of Professional Police Officers from 1/1/2025 through 12/31/2028.
Good afternoon, excuse me. Good afternoon, Alicia Lewis, again, Chief Human Resources Officer. I'll come before you to ask for authorization to execute a contract between the city and Apple, which is our union that has our SWAT officers, our police officers. We're coming off of a 5-year contract, and this will be a 4-year contract. Here in the audience is our command staff, negotiating team, as well as representation from Apple, as well as my folks from Human Resources. We are looking at, as I said, a 4-year contract. As you see, 4% in the first 3 years and a 3.5% increase in the last year. In addition, we are also happy to say that this group will be taking that 20% employee contribution by the end of the contract, by the life of the contract. You'll see a slow increase over the life. And then lastly, last highlight here would be we did agree to give a longevity increase for our officers that work hard and are out there doing their job. And so you'll see there is a slight increase each year over the life of the contract.
So that longevity increase, is that something we have now, and this is just
Yes.
increasing from that?
Yes.
So this isn't new, this is just an increase
It's not
of what
new.
the percentages were before?
Correct.
Okay, I just want to make sure about that. Questions, comments from the committee? Hearing none, do we have a motion?
Motion to.
Motion by Alderman
Second.
Bay, second by Alderman Tolliver. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 4-0. Thank you.
Thank
you
you.
guys for your service. Thank you for all you do. Anything else to come before the Finance Committee today?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn by Alderwoman Bay, second by Alderman Tolliver. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And we are adjourned at 3:57. Thank you.